All right, welcome everybody. This is Jim McCowan, the Director of Career and Technical Education with Garden State Esports. And tonight I am joined by Ian and Brian from CleverLike Studios. We are going to do a quick walkthrough, learning how to use Twinmotion to help us out with our CODEC Challenge series. All right, so Brian, Ian, you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Cool. I'll start and then we'll hand the show over to Ian since he's going to be showing you guys all this great stuff. So my name is Brian. I go by CleverLike. Actually went to school in Toms River, New Jersey when I was younger. Spent a lot of time on the computer and gaming and learning how to code and meeting with friends and stuff like that. So then it's really inspired me at this stage to kind of provide some of the things that I thought I was missing back then that I think are of value now. And that includes providing content like this. So that's kind of what CleverLike does. We produce games for Minecraft, games for Fortnite, education for Minecraft, Fortnite, Unreal Engine, Twinmotion, and more. So that's what we do. And we've got a great team of talented people that love to share what they do to help inspire you as well. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Ian Southwell.
Well, thank you, Brian. Hey, y'all. My name is Ian Southwell. I've worked in the video games industry many moons ago. And actually decided to leave that and then get into education. For me, the biggest thing that the reason that I keep coming back, let's just put it that way, is just the ability to build worlds the way I want to make them. Twinmotion is actually by far of the programs that I've played with, the most effective way and most efficient way to build any kind of environment. It's just incredibly fast. There's just all kinds of features. There's like, oh, I can hit a button and it just happens. Like I don't have to understand the coding. I don't have to actually make the models. I don't have to UV them. I don't have to, all kinds of little things that go into like building this stuff. I don't have to worry about it. I can simply just grab things and just build, which is, as a kid, I've loved Legos. If you haven't played with Legos, I'm so sorry. But now you don't have to worry about it because you can do it digitally and you don't have to like worry about puncturing your feet as you walk across your room at night. It's amazing. So without further ado, let's kind of jump into this. So what you see on screen now is a quick little world that I put together. I don't know, this probably took me 20 minutes maybe to kind of do. Some of the stuff is directly built out of Twinmotion. Some of it is grabbed from the internet. You are totally free to grab anything you want from the internet as long as it's classroom appropriate to drop into these worlds. And the idea is to build a space that you would actually want to either be a sportscaster or you would actually want to be streaming your games or you'd want to be competing, but still make it, homey and, a place that you want to hang out. Like it should have those features that make people want to walk in there and be like, like this is like the feng shui in this place is really nice, man. Like this is really cool, right? So let's kind of talk about some of the things that are on screen, and then we'll talk about a little bit more on how to kind of get it there. So some of the stuff you see here actually in the background is this is literally a tablet. So what I'm going to just point out here is that you don't have to use pieces the way that they are intended. You can use them very, very differently, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scoot this way up off screen here. Let's see if I can get up here so you can see how this is actually set up. So I'm going to push this up and I'm just selecting the object, and you'll notice I've got this little gizmo that allows me to kind of move this. Now to get at this gizmo, if you have an object selected, it's just this right here. We'll be covering a little bit more of this, but I'm just going to make sure I'm on the move when I can push this up. And I'm going to introduce to you the best F word you're ever going to want to know while you're working inside of this. And it is frame.
Hey. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
So it's frame. So if you click the F key on the keyboard, it will actually frame the selected object. So if I get a hold of it and hit F, there we go. Now I can actually see it. So let's talk a little bit about navigation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Shift key on the keyboard and middle mouse click and drag, and this will allow me to orbit around said object. You can see this is literally just a tablet that I just kind of turned on its side and stuck on the wall like a giant TV. So don't feel like you have to use the piece as the piece. That's just don't feel limited like that. That's not what you have to worry about, right? So to undo, this is another really, really helpful one. You can hit Control Z, and if I hold on, let me move the camera a little bit here. So I'm in there. There it goes, and it should move it back down where it came from. Pardon me, I'm used to using about 3 different softwares here, so my controls are going to be a little bit weird for a moment until I get used to them again. So I'll undo, and it'll pop it back down to where it needs to go. Yeah, just keep pushing it, and then undo again. There we go. So now it's back where it began. So undo is going to be a big part of this. So let's talk about a little bit the interface so that you can get used to this. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of everything that you see on screen. So you will start with a brand new scene. So I'm going to come up here and say File and New Scene. This is going to be exactly what you're going to have. So I'm going to say, do I want to save? No, I've already got this saved elsewhere, so I don't have to worry about it. So first things first, let's talk about this little section right up here at the top. This is your navigation. So at any time, if you're confused on how to navigate inside of this viewport, this big area here, this is exactly how you're going to make that happen. Now, when you open up Twinmotion for the first time, it's going to ask you what kind of control scheme you want to use. I'm going to use the default Twinmotion control scheme. So if you're using the Unreal one or the Maya one or the AutoCAD one, the controls are going to be different. So just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so if you want to look around, I can just grab the right mouse button by itself and I can just turn it, and it's like being in a first-person shooter, which is great. While I'm holding this down, if I use the ASDW keys, I can actually move around from place to place. Now, my world is huge right now, so I don't have any way of really showing you what's actually happening, but I promise you, I'm actually moving around. It just doesn't look like it, right? So let's bring something into the world. And I want to show you this right off the bat because this is really how quick and easy this is. So over here on the left-hand side of the screen, way up here, you'll notice there's a little tiny arrow. That little arrow, if I click that, so let's back up, click on that, I get this whole area over here that opens up, and it is my library. And inside of here, I have materials, objects, lights, characters. We want to build this area so that it's the size that we would be able to stand inside of it. So let's go into characters first. And I'm just going to go to animated humans because we want something that's animated. There are cats and stuff into here too, by the way. They're fun, right? So we're going to go to the animated ones. I'm just going to grab a mirror. He's the first one. I'm just going to click and drag this into the world. You'll see that he will populate right down there. Now, for those of you who remember the frame key, you can actually just hit the F key and it'll zoom in right on top.
I got my finger on the bleep button here.
Bleep, 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 bleep. It's going to happen, right? All right. So now I'm going to shift, middle mouse click, and now I can orbit around this character. Now you can grab multiples. You know, there's a couple of kids that are in here too. Maybe you want a business suit. I think there's a construction worker in here. Yeah, we got construction workers in here too. So it's good times. You can add anything you want, right? So bring a character in here. This is going to be your staple number one. How big do you need to make things? And the reason this is important is if you're bringing stuff in from some other location outside of Twinmotion, it's going to have a different scale, a different size. So we want some way of like anchoring the size and the scale inside of the world as quickly as possible. And humans do this for us real easily. Okay, so next thing we want to do is go ahead and kind of talk about some of the other areas in the interface so you know where you're going to be able to find the things that you need. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one here on the left. Let's close that one down. Then over here on the right, you'll notice that I've got a couple of icons over here too. So we'll briefly talk about all three of these, if I can get them all circled. There we go. So the little arrow, if you open this up, this will show you everything that is that's inside the scene. Right now, the only thing in here is our character in the ground. If you accidentally select the ground and move it, you'll notice that now it looks like he's floating, right? So you can just hit Control Z to undo, and I'll send that back. Select the character. If we need to move our character, that's where these are going to come in right down here. So we can move, scale, and rotate our character. So if we scale him up, we can make him a lot larger or a lot smaller as needed. I'll go ahead and undo and set that back. Now to get an exact number for these, in case you're like, I want to have an exact number, that's down here on the bottom. So under statistics, we're actually going to change where it says statistics, and we're going to change this to transforms. This will allow us to see how big this thing is, how much it's rotated, and where it is in the world. And we can give these very specific numbers too. So if I wanted to set this to the world origin, I can just type in 0, hit enter. He's going to move. There he goes. And 0 and hit enter. And then 0 and hit enter. And now we know that that's the middle of the world. Well, now he's floating, so that's kind of weird. I'm going to hit F. I'm going to go and zoom in on that. So to bring him back down to the ground, I can come back down here, and I can grab my move tool, and I can just grab this top arrow, and this will allow me to move him up and down. Here's a pro tip. Pro tip number 1, right? So this little spot right here at the center of the gizmo, if you click and drag on that, he will, get him selected, he will snap to the surface that's right underneath the actual cursor, right? So if there's a chair, he'll snap to the top of the chair. If there's a table, he'll snap to the top of the table. Right now, he's on the ground, so he's just going to snap to the top of the ground. So this is a really easy way to get a hold of him and move him around. And if you need exact numbers, you have your transforms over here. I'm going to go ahead and close this down because I won't need it. And then as I add more pieces, this will begin to grow, this list over here. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is how fast your camera is going to move inside of here. So again, I'm going to hold down the right mouse key. And if I use my ASDW, just like I'm flying around inside of a first-person shooter, you can see that I can get around. This is a real quick, easy way to get from one place to the next, which is awesome. You can also use the E key as an echo to go down, get underground. You can use Q to go up, so to ascend. So that's these, right? Whoops, come here. There we go, right there. That's these ones. Then you can also change the speed by hitting the 1, 2, 3, and 4 keys on your keyboard, or if you open up the little eyeball here, you can see this little icon will allow you to change walking speed. 2 would be bicycle, 3 and 4. So in case you want icons, you want something specific over here, you can use these as well.
Nice. Speed is super important when it comes to, obviously, if you have a large space, you want to move quickly, but if you have a small space and you're having trouble lining things up, that should trigger. So the trigger is, man, this is so hard to control. I keep going past the point where I'm trying to aim. I go forward, backward, up, down, too fast. Change your speed, lower your speed, move slower, more precise. There's amateur tip. You have the pro tips.
All right, so I'm gonna go over here. Let's go ahead and select Amar and hit F. I'm gonna zoom in on him, and then I'm going to change my speed, and this will let me know which one I'm actually on. Say I was on that one there, so I'm gonna go down to my walk speed. All right, so here we can kind of get a decent spot. If I'm moving too slow, come in here. We can speed this up just a little bit. Let's back that up. There we go, like so. All right, so we've got a character. Let's start actually adding in some of the pieces that we need. So over here on the far left, let's go ahead and dig into our actual objects. So instead of objects, we can go into something like our home. Instead of the home, we can go into the actual office. And inside the office, we're just going to keep digging, just keep going, right? So we've got chairs, and then yay, here's all of our chairs. Now, these are not the most awesome chairs when it comes to gaming, I'll be completely honest, but maybe you want to put your spectators in there, right? That's kind of a thing. But there are also, let's go back one here. We can go into tables. Now, this is the part that gets really fun because you'll notice that these tables, we're going to zoom in on them here a little bit. They've already got a bunch of stuff already on them. Well, you don't have to leave that stuff on them. You can actually remove them, right? So let's back out of that. And let's go ahead and grab, I want one that's mostly done so I don't have to do too much work because we want to make this quick. So let's say, what would be a good gamer chair? This one looks pretty good. So our shape desk. I'm just going to click and drag this over. So we now have our desk. I'm going to hit F so I can zoom in on it. Hold shift and middle mouse so I can kind of look around. All right, so this works pretty well. And you'll notice over here, inside of this, there are a bunch of pieces. Now I can select these. So let's say I want to select that orchid. I can grab it there. I can grab it over here. And if I just hit delete, I'll just get rid of it. Like maybe I don't necessarily want these. So click once, click a second time to get that specific piece and get rid of it. Click once, click a second time to get that one to get rid of it. Click that one, click it again, delete it. I'm going to select the actual monitor here, and I'm going to slide this over. Okay, and I want to make a duplicate of it because let's be honest, I want dual screen whenever I'm working, right? So I'm going to hold down the shift key on the keyboard and I can click and drag on this and I can make a duplicate. And when I let go, it's going to ask me a specific question. Do I want to make a copy or do I want to make an instance? In this case, it's not really going to matter too much. The difference between the copy and the instance is if I change the texture on one, it'll change it on the other one. If I make a copy, if I change one, the other one won't have any differences on it. So in this case, for me, it's not really going to matter. I'll let you kind of decide. I can also change or choose how many of them I want. So if I were to crank this up to like 6 and say, okay, I'll get a whole string of them off to the side. Maybe that's what you want. It's totally up to you, right? And then how much spacing you want between them as well. We'll just leave it as is. I'm going to go ahead and knock this back down to just 1 and say, okay. So now I have 2 of these and they're a little bit separate. I didn't drop it in there. So let's talk about actually adding that in there. So with this one selected, you'll notice that it's down here. All you need to do is just click and drag this, and I can just drag it on top of this folder, and now it's inside of there. So if I grab this whole thing, now this all moves, which is good to go. I'm going to get rid of that guy. I don't need that. And then that was floating. I don't need that one either. Now I don't want this chair. I'm going to add in another chair. So let's talk about adding in other pieces. And what we're doing here is I'm going to build like a desk, and then this desk I can use to give to all of my other players as they want to, like, join in the game, as it were. So to bring something in, you can go to external sites, specifically the one that I went to. I'll bring this over here. You can go to Sketchfab. Sketchfab has a ton of free stuff in it. So by all means, go over there. Be a little careful with your searching. There's not always safe for work stuff on there. I will warn you of that. And you'll also want to set up a couple filters. One specifically is you want to look for the stuff that's free. So unless you really want to pay for it, but this one's here is free. You guys can see the link up here at the top. Let's go and just grab that. We'll drop that in the chat for y'all, just in case you guys have got access to that. So from here, we want to go ahead and download it. So once we're happy with the chair that we want, that we've actually searched for, if we scroll down just a little bit, there should be, if you've got one of the ones you could download, there'll be a little download button that lives right here. Now, this is an important piece because not every model will actually go into Twinmotion. There's only a couple of formats that will actually work. So I'm going to go ahead and say download model. I'll get a new option. And in this case, you'll see that this is an FBX. So this one will work. I know it'll take FBXs. They will also take OBJs. So FBX or OBJ will work fine. Then just go ahead and download it. If you don't have an account, you will have to set up an account. Don't worry, it's free. Just click that or unclick that box that says, I want more emails. Just turn that off. You don't need all those emails unless you want the emails. Then by all means, fill your inbox. That's totally cool. So you just say download and it'll go ahead and download it to where you want. It'll give you a zipped file. So you'll have to unzip that file to actually get at the pieces that are inside of there. So 7-zip is a way to get a hold of, 7-zip is a program that you can use to get a hold of the pieces inside that zipped file. I've already got this one, so I don't have to worry about it. So I'm just going to drag this off screen for a moment. So to get this into the actual scene here, I need to go into the import settings, and that is this button right here. Okay. So with this one, I'm just going to click on this. It's going to say, hey, let's go ahead and import. So I'm going to click the big giant import button. Can't miss it, right? And it's going to say, okay, what do you want to actually bring in? So this is what we're actually going to bring in. So I'm going to bring in some geometry. I'm going to say open, and then I just need to navigate to where my actual chair is. So this one right here, and I'm going to go into the source. Now, when you download these, there'll be multiple folders. The source will hold the actual FBX or the OBJ. The texture will actually hold specific textures. Now, I don't have to worry about the textures in this case, but sometimes you want to bring those in as well. So in this case, I'm just going to say source, go ahead and grab the chair and go ahead and say open. Now, under the options, to make your life a lot easier, I would suggest taking your collapse. So this one right here. Instead of saying collapse by material, I would say collapse all. And what this is going to do is over here in this little outliner, the scene outliner, if you collapse it all, it'll become one object over here. If you leave it as actual materials, you'll get a bunch of separate objects in a folder. And I'm going to make your life easy. So just say collapse all. That's why I'm spending some time on this. Don't forget that step. And I'll just say, okay, it's going to import it in. Go ahead and bring it in. There we go. So now we have this giant chair.
Woohoo!
This is
That's a photo opportunity right there.
Right? That's a thing.
That's a carnival thing.
Beautiful. Lots of shade, right? So this is obviously way too big. So over here on the right, let's go ahead and close down the desk and open up the chair. You can see there is that actual chair. So I can go ahead and move this wherever I want. Use this to snap it to the floor. Again, it's huge. So I'm going to click here, go ahead and say scale, use my scale tool, and I'm going to grab the very center of this gizmo. So let me zoom in here so you can see this. So whoops, select my object here. So this gizmo, you'll notice it has a vertical end to it, and then it's got one that's coming forward and one that's going to the side. I want the one in the very center. And the reason why I want this one in the center is because it's going to scale this in a uniform fashion. Otherwise, I could flatten it, which I don't want it to be shorter. I just want it to be smaller. So I'm going to change it in all three. There we go. And just click and drag on that one again.
That's good. That's a great moment. Like when you accidentally grab the wrong thing and flatten it, and then your immediate reaction is to grab the handle and then stand it back up again. And now you've screwed it up, and now you're trying to fix it and you're making it worse. And what do? Instead of trying to fix it, we undo it. Yeah. So remember, like whenever anything, it's like, ooh, you moved it. It didn't work. Undo it. One of the things I do that's a tip is like, if you're moving something and it's not lining up right, then what I'll do is like, I'll move it like dramatically in the wrong direction and then undo it so I could try again. You know, like I'll make sure to use undo to kind of start over. You should be in the habit of doing that so you're not leaving. So like if he were to scale that flat and then try to fix it and then scale it uniformly, that disproportion that was left would still be living in there. So undo. Yeah.
It's the oops button.
Yeah.
Control Z.
Use that oops button.
Okay, so it's still a little big. Yeah, I'm thinking that's a little big still. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down. Now you can use your transforms over here, and you could give it X, Y, and Z coordinates. So another way to tell if you've actually scaled this in a uniform fashion, that these values should all be the same number. So you're like, oh, they're all 30. Okay, cool. Then I know that it's, a 30% of what that actually was. Okay, so there's that. Now let's go ahead and take this office chair. I'm just going to click and drag it into there. And then this folder that's empty over here, I can just right click on it, or you can click the little ellipses that's here on the side and just say delete, and I'll get rid of that one. So now that it's in there, this is great. So now I can actually just grab that And let's change this over to the rotation tool. I will let you also know that the move tool does have a rotation tool built into it. So you'll notice that these little arrows here are the little area between there. And this also has like a move on it. So you can do that really quickly. So here we have a desk. We do want an actual tower that sits on here as well. So I do have a tower in here. So this is the tower that I brought in. Now I'm going to talk about this one specifically. I went ahead and found this one. I was like, cool, let's go ahead and bring it in, right? So this one does something a little bit weird too when you bring it in. So let me go ahead and grab it. Make sure I'm grabbing the right one. So we'll go import. We'll go to that specific spot. So PC, so this is the PC I want. I'm going to go into my source, go into that one and say open. Again, I'm going to go ahead and collapse all and say, okay. And this one has a texture on it. It's like, well, where is that actual texture? Well, I don't necessarily need the texture. This thing's going to be so small on screen. I'm not going to worry about it. But if I do want it, we want to go ahead and make sure that we find that spot. It's like, oh, this happens to be in whoever built this inside of that folder, right? So we can say open, go back into the tower. So it's going to be in here and here. And remember that textures folder I was telling you about? This is where those textures are. So we'll go ahead and say select folder, and then we'll go ahead and say, okay. And then it brings it in. Now we have a giant tower, huzzah. So let's go ahead and drag this one into that. Let's go delete this one out of there. I just hit delete on the keyboard. And when I select the model,
That's called
here,
a mainframe right there.
That
That's,
is the mainframe.
that's a mainframe. When back in my day, computers were taking an entire room.
Yeah, that's a supercomputer nowadays, right?
Good old multivac. Did anybody know who multivac is? Am I the only one that knows who multivac is? Go read some Isaac Asimov and figure out who that one is. Okay, so the reason I brought this one is you noticed in the picture, where did that one go? You noticed in the picture, like this looks like glass, right? But when we brought it in, it didn't come in as glass. So we're going to give it that actual material. So you can change the materials on these objects that you bring in and the ones that are in here as well. So let's go back over here on the far left. I'm going to go all the way back up to the top of the library and then go back into my materials. Inside of here, there's one that's called glass. I'm just going to here, and then I have all these glass options. And if I scroll down a ways, you even get some cool colored ones down here too, right? So some are a little bit more opaque. You get some really wavy colored ones. Yeah, there's some fun ones in here. So I'm just going to grab, I don't know. Let's grab one of these ones up here. So let's say blue. Well, we got red down there. Let's do some red. So I'm going to grab that red, and you can see you can just click and drag it. And whatever I put it on top of, it's going to change to that red material. So I want to make sure that I'm over the glass part of my tower
Nice.
before I let go. Now,
That glass desk looked pretty cool though.
yeah, that was pretty cool. That's for sure, right? So there we go. So then we've got this. And then if we want, let's see, where did that? If I want to get this glass again, it's real easy. So if I select another object, or maybe I've worked in somewhere in here, so let's open this up a little bit. So if I'm like, oh, let me grab another character real quick, just to give you guys an example. Let's bring this fella in. So I'm like, cool. And you'll notice down here at the bottom that all of this has changed. It was that glass a second ago. Rewind the video, go back and watch it, right? But I want to get that glass again. Well, that's where this little eyedropper comes in handy. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that eyedropper and then click on that glass, and yay, now I have that glass, which is awesome. Okay, so I can just drag this onto that other piece. There we go. So at any time, anything that's actually out there in the world, whoops, you can go ahead and just use it on something else. So let's go ahead and grab that model, and I'm going to change this back to my scale. We'll make this a little bit smaller, like so. Now, where do you want your tower? Do you want it up above? Do you want it below? That's totally up to you. That's totally up to you. Now, I keep coming over here to change my move, scale, and rotate, but you may have noticed when I hover over these, it says translate, and then there's a 5. I don't know how big you can see that on the screen. Rotate is a 6, and scale is 7. You can use those keys on your keyboard to change between these tools really quickly. So in case you want to do shortcuts, totally a way to make that happen. So we can just put this tower right there. I hit F and then zoom in. There we go. So there we go. Now we have a tower. All right. Now, because this desk is all one like group, right? I can duplicate the group, but in case I want to use this again later, you'll notice if you scroll down here, there's a user library, and inside the user library, I've already built a desk. So let's go ahead and grab that one too. So I can grab this guy, and I can drag this out. Ta-da. And now I have 2 of them that are pretty close. You'll notice that there's some slight differences. This one's got a set of headphones on it, which I brought in from elsewhere, right? You can grab these little pieces that are here and you can move them around. So, customize it, make it the way you want. I put a little mug on this one too, right? So maybe I want to save this. That's something that I want to do, right? Well, all you have to do is come over here to the right-hand side inside of our little outliner bit. And what we're going to say is add to user library. Now When I do this, wait for it. There's quite a few pieces here. Ta-da! Now we have 2 desks that are in here. So I can grab and move and rearrange 2 desks, 2 different desks. So maybe I want to add this one over here. Remember, we want to have how many people in this? We have 5 people in here. Let's put it on this side. I like that idea better.
At least 5. At least 5. Plus a coach and a casting station.
Right. So I'm going to click on this, hold control, click on, actually, we need to collapse these. This is going to make my life a lot easier. So click, control, click that one, control, click that one, control, click that one, hold shift and drag these back. And let's go ahead and make like 3 copies. And we'll say, okay, ta-da, check that out.
Nice.
I told you it's quick, it's super fast, right? Although this guy's right in the middle of it.
That's expensive though. That's a lot of computers. You just you really blew the budget right there.
Let's move this guy out of the way. He's getting smashed. We don't need that.
He's like,
so we need a place for the coach. We also need a place for the sportscasters. So hopefully you get the idea of like being able to mix and match and move things around. So let's start using some of the pieces that are actually inside of Twinmotion to kind of build the environment that we need in here too. So what I'm going to start with is over here inside the library. I've gone to the very, very top of this. There's little arrows. You just keep clicking on it to get to the top of the library. And if you go into objects, you can go into primitives. Now the primitives, you might think, well, that's kind of boring, right? But what's kind of cool about this is you can really create some really cool like worlds with this. So what I want to do is I want to build a wall that's going to be on this side, right? So we have our wall here, and we've got our other wall that's going to be here. And I want to have a big screen up here, or maybe a couple of big screens, you know, maybe who's in first, who's in second, who's in third, whatever it happens to be. Maybe I want to have a podium that kind of lives over here where there's somebody that's standing. Maybe I want like some stairs up here. Maybe I want to have, you know, the little winner's circle piece that up's here. Maybe I want to have the coach piece over here. Now, the reason that I'm drawing these out is because if I've got a visual idea of what I want, when I start to go building this, I don't get lost down the rabbit hole of like, I wonder if I do, well, how about if I put one of these? Like, no. Like I know what I want. I know where I want it. And now I know I can put it in there really, really quickly. So don't be afraid to like take your phone, take a picture of like kind of what you've got built, and then drop it into whatever program you can draw with on your phone and kind of sketch things out on top of there. Totally easy to do. If you got a pencil and a piece of paper in your old school, you can do it that way too if you really wanted to, but I know how this goes. I use my phone for this all stuff all the time. Okay, so let's put in those walls. Over here, I've got a 10-meter cube, so I'm just going to click and drag that in there. Now, I'm never going to see the back side of this, but I'm going to go ahead and use my scale tool and make this a little bit thinner. It doesn't need to be that big, right? So do that, and I'm going to go ahead and hit 5 on the keyboard so that way I can move this over like so. Now, I could duplicate this now, or I can put a material on it and then duplicate it afterwards and save myself a little bit of trouble. And if I'm going to be putting 4 walls on here, maybe I want to wait a little bit longer. And this is why I did walls later, because I can't see through these objects. So if I go to this side, like I can't see through there, right? So walls are always kind of one of the later things that I usually do, unless I've built them in another program like Blender or Maya or 3D Studio Max, whatever it is that you would work with, right? So let's go ahead and put a material on this. I'm going to go back, go into materials, and let's go ahead and scroll down. We have wall coverings. Whoops, sorry, I clicked on that really quick. So there we go, wall coverings right here. So if I click on this one, I'm like, oh, we got some cool stucco, some paints. Let's go ahead and let's see, what do we have here? I'm going to play with this blue one. So I'm going to click and drag this onto here. I'm like, cool, that's awesome. But wait, there's more. What we can do is we can change the colors on these too. So this little color palette down here, remember we were using the little eyedropper? We've got other kinds of cool pieces down here. So I'm like, oh, let's change that blue. I'm going to move this color picker off to the side a little bit. Maybe I want it to be
We have to set that up a little better. But Ian, I don't want my wall to look like that. What can I do?
Right. All right. I feel like I need those little things that go in cooking shows. Like, here's how many, there's a cup of flour, like, you know, all the little things that go along with it. Right. So let's make it a little bit darker brown, because we live in a dark world when we're gaming, right? We don't need bright colors. What's up with that? That's crazy, right? I'm going to make this a little bit larger. So let's use my scale here and make it a little bit longer, because it's not really going to matter. Let's go ahead and just duplicate this. So I'm holding down shift and just dragging on the gizmo, and I'm dragging, you'll notice, between those 2 arrows so that I can actually move it along a plane as opposed to just one axis. So save myself a little time. Once I get it in there, that one is fine. And then I can rotate it. Then I can set this one over here. There we go. Maybe I want to change the floor as well. So guess what? There are carpet in here too. So I'm going to go to the very top because there's something else I want to point out. And if I were to do a search for carpet, Okay, we get a couple of options here. Wait for it. It'll actually find them. So we got a bunch of different rugs that are in here too, but you'll notice that there are carpet materials. Now, if I keep going, you'll also notice that I get these other ones in here that look very interesting. Now, this actually comes from the Megascan. So if you've ever played a game that was made inside the Unreal Engine, this is where you can actually kind of get this information from. It's actually the Unreal, the fellows over at Unreal, at Epic rather, ladies and guys, actually, they had grabbed a hold of a company and they were like, we want to use all your pieces. And they were like, cool, let's do this, right? So you have seen other really, really, really nice ones in here. Now, these are scans from the real world that then dropped into the actual, I was going to say game engine, but Twinmotion, this side in here. So if I keep going, you'll notice there's some really cool ones down here at the bottom, right? So there's one. I'm just going to drag this onto the floor. Wait for it. Is it going to let me do it? Oh, come on now, play nice. Oh, one moment. It's not going to let me do it right now. I actually need to download this. So whatever machine that you're working on, hopefully one that has an internet connection, I mean, it should be, you're watching this, right? So you'll have to download it and that'll put it onto the machine. And if you don't have that ability, then you're not going to be able to do this. But once it's downloaded, then you can actually put it onto your world. So let's go ahead and just download this. It does require that you have an Epic Games account. Not to worry, they're completely and totally free, and you get a lot of really cool things with it too. So I downloaded it. It's now on my machine. So now if I drag onto it, wait for it. Let's see what this is going to do. I got a feeling it's going to do something really silly, or it's going to completely crash. I should have saved. Oh, that's actually not too bad. Cool. Okay, so let's select our little guy. I'm going to hit F so I can zoom in. Now, this is a really big texture. That's a little bit too much, right? So if I select, let's use this guy and I select it. Cool. So here's my carpet. Here's my color, my reflection. Now I have a scale over here too. I can change my scale and make it much smaller. And now I can actually make it look like it's carpet size texture. There we go. Ta-da. Now, of course, I can always change the color, right? Any kind of color I want. Let's go kind of a darker brownish. We want warm colors today. Let's go that way. There we go. So there we go. And there's that. Okay, so we still need a couple of bits and pieces here. I need to get rid of my eyedropper, so I'm going to grab my move tool and let's grab this wall. How are we doing on time?
You picked the frustrated character. He's checking his watch over there on it, and he's like, "When is this esports complex going to be built here? How long do I have to wait? I want to play some games."
All right. So how are we on time? I totally missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, good. Yeah, 10 minutes.
Yeah, we got about 10 more minutes.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and put some things on the walls. So I'm going to go from my library. Let's go to, whoops, I need to close this search. There we go. So I want to talk about using things that you wouldn't typically use as what you would think them, like we talked about in the beginning, right? So let's go into our objects. And then from our objects, we can go into our home. Inside of our home, we can go into the office. Inside of the office, we're going to keep going. We're going to go into the accessories. So we've got a bunch of pieces in here. And oh, I don't have the tablet in this one. All right, this is where I never remember where these are at. So we're going to do this. Whoops, if I could spell. Oh, goodness, my fingers are all over the place. Computer. Let's see if we can find it under computer. There we go. So we got computer. There it is, tablet 3. So I'm going to take that tablet. I'm going to put it up against the wall. I'm going to hit F to zoom in on it. You'll notice that it comes in sideways. Not exactly what I want. So let's go ahead and use our rotation tool. And I'm going to rotate it this way. Now it's looking down, maybe not exactly what I want. So let's go ahead and rotate it so it's facing the users. And we'll grab our scale and we'll grab that. And we just make this a lot bigger, maybe. There we go. So I'm going to go straight. If you go straight up and down, it works a little better than going right and left, by the way, when you're scaling. So there we go. So we have that. So there's this. Let's go ahead and move this in. And I'm going to use, oh, don't grab the center of that gizmo. It's doing what you want, what you told it to do. There we go. I'm going to push this up and shift middle mouse to roll around it. I want another one of these. I'm going to hold shift and click and drag and bring that over. So there we go. And we just want 2 of those. So that's fine. So cool. So now we've got this. Now, what if we want like a little dais for somebody to step on, right? Well, we can take these cubes and actually let's go all the way back. Be a little faster, right? So let's go into objects, go back into primitives. We've also got like a 1 meter cube. So I can grab a cube over here. Let's build a little set of stairs and go up to this, maybe a little platform. So we can go and say scale, open this up. Whoops, come here. I like so. I'll slide this one over. Oh, maybe, come here. We got it. All right. So there's that one. And then I'm going to go ahead and shift drag this one forward and have it come down a little bit. And then I'll shift drag this one forward and have this one come down a little bit more. Now it's a matter of just kind of eyeballing this to look the way we want. Actually, let's do this. Changing my mind because I can. Let's make this one a little bit wider. So go that way, and we'll push it backwards. Like so. There we go.
It's
so
a
now
good
I've
thing
got a
to
bunch of-
observe how you can create these shapes based on, other shapes. You have all these basic primitive shapes and you can construct what you imagine using those. And now he's going to show you how to make them look cool.
Yeah. So yeah, don't feel like you're limited. There are so many different ways to kind of build these worlds. And then it's like, well, what colors do I want? It gets crazy. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with it, right? Zoom in on these, right? So you notice, look how stretched those textures are. It's kind of bright. So let's change the lighting here real quick. So I'm going to come up here, up in the little eyeball. If I change this time of day, there we go. Now we can see them a little better. Not too bad. And we can take our scale and we can change our scale down. So now we can get tiles on here that look like they're supposed to be on there. Here we got it. That's not too bad. We can change our lighting back. Like so. There we go. So you can create objects very quickly. You can create an environment very quickly. You can bring objects in really quickly. You can change the materials on them very quickly. As long as take the time to get used to navigating around. I know I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but it can get a little bit totally crazy. And the things that will help you the most is that F key. I told you it's the best F word in the world when it comes to building stuff in 3D, right? Hit that F key, you'll want it. And then your middle mouse and your shift will help you orbit around an object. Otherwise, the little commands that are up here at the top will totally help you get from one place to the next. The last little thing I want to show you is super silly, and it's totally not going to work for indoors. But what I'm going to do, let's see here. We want to come down into, that's our import. This one is our context. This is for building stuff outside. I'm not going to worry about that. But if you come down to this middle one, you come down to the weather, and you can make it snowy. And now they're going to be working in the snow. There you go. You got it.
Esports gloves.
Esports gloves. Yeah, exactly. There you go. So final thing, don't forget, we want to make videos of these, right? So down here in the very bottom left-hand corner, we've got this little button. This will open up our images, our panoramas, our videos, our phasing, and our center. If you go into images, and then you start to click right here, it's it'll save this image from that angle, right? So maybe we want to select our guy down here. Let's get in this frustrated guy's face, right? Like that. We're going to get down in here. Let's go ahead and close some of these panels on the side. Right, and then we'll go right about here-ish. We'll catch him right in the corner. Go back down into our images, say image, and then we can create a new one. Ta-da! And then we get that one. If you want to delete them, you can just click right here and say delete, rename, duplicate, whatever you want to do with those. And if you need to do a video, go back into this and go into video, right? Say, let's create a new video. What we're going to do, let's start in the back of the room here. So let's slide over here to the side. So I'm going to say create video. So this is our little timeline down here in the bottom. So with this one selected, you will notice that we have this little quit media mode down here. This lets you know that you're in the actual media mode and you've got these black bars on either side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the right mouse button and I'm just going to move my camera to about here. I'm going to say new. Okay. And then I'm going to look up and then I'm going to move my camera up here and I'm going to say new. Right. So now I have a little timeline down here. So if I scrub this, you can see that my camera will actually move through these. So I'll actually fly from place to place. I can always add more if I want to. So if I wanted to come over here somewhere, I can then of course add more to it. I can add them in the middle. So this is going to look really weird now. Let's see what this is actually going to do. There we go. So it'll slide and fly through, come over to the side and then come up and then it'll finish up on the big screens.
Yeah, not as bad as I was thinking that would be.
Oh, it's super simple. I love it. Right. Okay. So let's get these out of the actual program now that you've got them in there. Right. So that's this little button down here in the far left-hand corner, this little export button. Right. So we have images and we have videos, and you'll notice that they are not grayed out like this one, like the panorama's grayed out and the presenter's grayed out. So if I go into image and I give that a click, it's like, well, which images do you want to actually export? So you can turn them on and off just by clicking on them. So those are now selected. So let's go into the video, and I'm going to come in here and click on this one. This one's now selected. And then I just say start export, and it says, well, where do you want to export these? I'm going to do the worst thing ever and put them on my desktop. I apologize. I apologize right now for doing this. Don't do this. Don't put it on your desktop. Don't do that. It's horrible.
There's a time and place, and it should be never, but
yeah. Quick demo.
Yeah.
So now that it's been selected, I'm going to say select folder, and then it's going to go through and actually compute all of this stuff out and get it out the door. That's pretty much it. Okay, it's going to take an estimated 10 minutes to do the thing. So we're not going to wait for that. However, when you're done with it, you'll have little images as well as a video. And those are, of course, the pieces that you can totally and completely submit. I'm actually really excited. Wow, this is sweet. We're zooming through space and time right now. This is amazing.
That's that supercomputer you built before. It's
That's
kicking
right.
in.
Yeah, right. I just turned all of these into a render farm. I'm just saying. That's what I did. Right? Pixar, whatever. Check out my machines. So we might actually have a chance to look at this. I'm really excited. I was going to say, this is going to be cool to see what y'all build, because it's so quick and easy to build this stuff. And if you have questions, you can find me on Twitter, ask me questions there. I'm welcome to I want to be able to help you out as much as possible with this, because I guarantee you playing with this is going to open up a lot of doors, a lot of doors. All right, so let's minimize that. Oh, here's Twinmotion. There it is. Oh, by the way, quick tangent. There is a new one out. I'm using 2021.1.4. I haven't played with the preview one yet, so I don't know what this all is in there. Don't do this. There it is. So there it is. That's the one we don't want. Bring this over. So here is the image. Ta-da! Right, and then there's that one, and then the video right here.
Nice. So this is a good segue to your team and your resources and your approach to this. If you want to stand out in this contest, do you think it would be wise to just take the default desk that we found and use that? Or do you want to dig deeper? Do you want to be more creative, even to the point where it's possible for you or someone on your team or someone on the internet that you can collaborate and connect with that might want to create a model for you that's unique for your process? So you're in a connected world. There's other people that are your age that are interested in different things. And one of the strengths that you can, these strengths that you can build for yourself is this collaboration and using the space. So find if you have an idea that sets you apart from the rest, or a logo or something, and you could find someone that could create that model and bring it in to this environment, that could help make you stand out, make your space more unique, and also show you the potential of the tools, and maybe even get you a job down the line. So a lot of what we're doing with this is a pathway to a future if you have an interest in it. So you're taking esports and you're connecting it in a way that could open up all kinds of doors for you into the future. And that's kind of what the whole CODEC curriculum is about, right? Yep. So I want you to kind of think about that as this is not just a contained thing where you have to use the same stuff and make the same thing like everybody else. This is your opportunity to be unique, to be innovative, to use your tools, use your connections, collaborate with people, and come up with something unique. Be competitive, try to make something special, keep it a secret from everybody else until the launch or whatever. You need to, if you have some special sauce that you're working on, but share your experiences with other people, help where you can, and also do your thing to make yourself create something special. So that's my bit of advice.
Yeah, even something as simple as playing around with the textures, just because you're using one of the pre-made desks. If you kind of change the textures and the materials that go onto that desk to make it unique to your team colors, things like that. There's lots of stuff that you can do. Twinmotion is great about allowing you to edit all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you could even turn the desk upside down, bury the desk, and use the legs as a wall or a hallway or something like that. Think about it too. Ian is a master at this. I love seeing what he does with things. You don't look at a desk is not a desk. If you stand it like this as a model, then it's a desk. But it's a 3D object that you could move, scale, and rotate in 3-dimensional space and retexture it. So it's not just a desk. It's bunch of parts that you can make into whatever you want. So experiment with those things as well. That could help make you take a normal thing that everyone else has and come up with a use. They'll be like, where did you get that cool wall? It's like the desk upside down. And so that kind of thinking and being clever and thinking outside the box is also the kind of thing that gets you standing out and dancing like that dude. He loves it.
Yeah. It's his new arena. He's excited.
Yeah, I would be too, man. I'm jealous.
Yes, it's a nice arena, not bad for 45 minutes, right?
Yeah. And one of the things that I really want to stress out too, just to kind of close this up, is that this is the program that is used by professionals. Like, it's legitimately used by people that make a lot of money doing this kind of stuff. Like, well, I need something that looks like this. Be like, cool. Your client comes in and is like, I need 5 desks. Be like, all right, cool. I can build one with 5 desks. That's easy. Build them that thing. Get the money that you paid for, but on the side, build another one and be like, well, if you had an extra $100,000 and you wanted to go further, let's go ahead and add in these jumbotrons, and we'll go ahead and set up the sound systems, and we'll go ahead and put in bricks in here. And oh, by the way, you could take this artist that I happens to know. He's got his stuff online. Let's grab it from there and actually drop it in the lobby. Like, it's a legitimate way to make money, like very much so.
Yep.
Also goat, because goats.
Excellent point to make there, Ian. That's about all the time we got tonight. Again, we here at Garden State Esports want to thank Brian and Ian from CleverLike for stopping in, helping us out with this, learning from some of the experts on Twin Motion. If you guys have any questions on any of this, feel free to ping me in our Discord server. I will relay any questions to Brian and Ian. And, we're all excited to see what you guys do.
Look forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.